Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on whereabouts in the world you're situated. Today, we have the final day of round number 1 of the Super Mario Galaxy Any Percent Luigi Tournament for Winter 2021/2022. Today's match is between Ginkgarbor and Mr.Arska, as you can see on your screen here. There's about a 12-minute difference in personal bests here, if I've done my my maths correctly. So it'll be an interesting race, perhaps not quite as close if everything goes, you know, as the simulations have predicted, as they say. But I do expect that this will be an interesting match. So I will let the players know that they can get started. And we will hopefully be starting within the next minute or so. So there's a few key differences you can take a look at through both players' screens already. Mr.Arska is running on the 3D All-Stars version of the game that came out for the Nintendo Switch last November, I believe it was. Whereas Ginkgarbor is playing on the classic version. He's actually playing on the Wii U. So that's why on the left side of the screen we have Japanese text, on the right side Korean. Korean text is slightly faster, but there is no, you know, official way to get the game in Korean for the Wii U. As well, I'm not sure if it was super noticeable, but Ginkgarbor also has 2 cursors on his screen. He will be taking advantage of 2P. He has taken 2 Wii remotes and taped them together with Velcro. The reasons for that I will be explaining as we go, but it's essentially another little piece of time save that he can utilize throughout multiple points of the run. Alright, the race room has been started. We'll be getting going in just a couple of seconds now. And we are indeed off. Now, perhaps it would make sense for me to slide the bracket into the chat as well. So I'll post a cute little link in there for y'all. So we're starting off right away with bunnies. As you can see, even though Mr.Arska started about a second later than Ginkgo, the loads on the Switch are extremely fast, so he's already taken, you know, just a little under a second lead. I would like to see if I can sync them somehow. Alright, I'm still getting used to the controls, the commentator controls, but I'll figure that out as we go. So as you can see, both players collecting bunnies. Arguably one of the hardest parts of the run, even this early on. The different angles at which the camera goes can make it a little bit tricky, but both players getting a very quick bunnies, about 1:15-ish for both. So right away, Ginkgo demonstrating one of the good uses of 2P, the so-called grounded 2P jump. If you manage to press A on both of the Wii remotes at the same time while the cursor is on Luigi, he does a very tall jump. Now, the grounded one isn't necessarily too impressive, except for allowing you to get up to that platform relatively easily. However, there's also a version we can do in mid-air, and so when you combine that with something like a backflip or a triple jump, you can imagine that you get quite a little bit of height out of that. A little bit of an interesting technique by Ginkgo there. Trying to break open that crystal in one shot, but having a little bit of issue with movement. If they sync that up correctly. It looks closer. Not my first time commentating, but it is my first time handling the commentator controls, so having a few issues there. Speaking of issues, Ginkgo having a little bit of issue with getting himself oriented, but not too big of a deal, minor things. As the players finish up this sort of second to last section, you can see that green pipe in there. We're going to have our first super tight trick of the run. You'll see Mr.Arska here. Upon entering the pipe, he will have a 4-frame window once he hits the ground to press A, and he'll be able to jump out of a series of text boxes. Both players are hitting it at about the same time. This will be a very quick way to see who's ahead. Mr.Arska does get it. Ginkgo also gets it, so both players skipping a cutscene that takes about 10 to 15 seconds, depending on what language you're running the game in. And to finish this off, they're going to be turning all the flip switches blue. Nothing too crazy here. And with that, we have our first star of the run. So for those who have not watched a Super Mario Galaxy speedrun before, the any % category consists of collecting 60 stars, then heading off to fight the final Bowser for a grand total of 61. So we're going to be seeing this specific animation another 5 times over the course of the next roughly 2.5 hours. Alright, I should have the timer synced up properly now. It's close enough. Alright, so this is the part where Rosalina, our sort of captain of this ship that's not really doing too much shipping right now, tells us a little bit about the story. Basically, Bowser stole all the Power Stars, stole Peach, went to the center of the universe, you know, usual Bowser shenanigans. If there's anyone who can read Japanese relatively quickly, you can get an understanding of the story. If not, that's pretty much all the synopsis you need. So yeah, it's a little bit slow to start up this game. There's a whole bunch of cutscenes. Even more so if you play as Mario. The players are playing as Luigi right now, as you can tell. If you play as Mario, there's also roughly a 5-minute cutscene at the start, where you actually watch Peach getting abducted. We decided to save such a gory sight for your eyes on this fine Saturday morning. You're all welcome. You can see Mr.Arska making up a little bit of ground just based on the Korean text. It's the fastest language to play this game overall. As well, switch loads are slightly faster when you load in and out of domes and such. But regardless, Ginkgo moving on into the first sort of real star of the game. This is Good Egg Galaxy. We're moving into Good Egg 1. Pretty fun level. There's a lot of nifty platforming. A boss fight at the end, which you can see on Ginkgo's screen. It's a really nice introduction to how gravity works, and how sorts of microplanets have gravities that interact with each other. So right away you can see the first little piece of tech there. That ledge is very slightly... Ooh, I was going to say that ledge is very, very thin and you can stand on it. But super razor thin, in fact. It's A little bit tricky to get your footing sometimes. Ginkgo's struggling to get a wall kick, but there you go. That movement in particular that he's doing is very important for making a cycle on this peanut planet that he doesn't necessarily need to get because he has the 2P cursor. Which brings me to benefit number 2. The 2P cursor can freeze enemies, including boulders. And as you've seen here, when Ginkgo freezes 2 boulders and they hit each other, they release about, I think it's either 8 or 10 star bits each. And star bits are very important in this game because to complete this route, the one Ginkgo is doing specifically, you need 1,400. I think Mr.Arska, he might be using a route that only needs 1,000. I can't necessarily confirm. But I will know fairly early on, so I'll be sure to let y'all know once I do. So the players getting to the boss fight at roughly the same time. And this is a fairly straightforward boss fight. It's one of those, you hit him 3 times, and, you know, he goes poof in a puff of smoke, and gives you a star. There's not really too much to optimize here, besides how tightly you, like, hug his thigh as you walk around him, as you see Ginkgo keeping very little space between him and the boss. Ensure that he gets to the tail as fast as possible. Nothing too complicated there. And one more minor optimization, you can see him shooting star bits there. That temporarily freezes the boss, keeps it from moving around too much. We'll be using that a couple of times. There's a... I can think of at least one more boss for which we'll be using that tactic. The relatively clean Good Egg 1 from both runners. Not too shabby. As we head into Good Egg 2 here, we're going to start with a quick tutorial from Polari, our little brown Luma back there. Just telling you about how star bits work and how you can shoot them. Ginkgo already did a very nice demonstration of that for us. Fun fact, there is a way you can crash the game here using the 2P that Ginkgo is using. I don't exactly know how it works, but there is a way that you can just completely crash the game. Ginkgo didn't do it there. He's, of course, not going to be taking any risks like that. But away we go. Now, Good Egg 2 is all about star bits, and both of these players are somewhat uniquely equipped to handle that issue. Of course, Ginkgarbor using the 2P cursor. Benefit number 3 is that the 2P cursor is very good at collecting star bits. However, Mr.Arska on the 3D All-Stars version also has a sort of upgraded pointer that has how do I want to word this? Has a slightly bigger hitbox than the one on the Wii, and can also sometimes collect star bits through walls. So you'll see both players looking to leave this starting planet with as many star bits as possible, because there is a so-called Hungry Luma waiting for them in about a minute that takes 100 of them to advance the level. You can see both players shooting star bits at the Slurples, I think they're called, the little blue lads. Shooting a star bit at each of them drops 3 star bits, whereas just spinning them drops 1, so you essentially double your star bits if you hit them first try. And now both players making their way right along. There's not too much to talk about in terms of like platforming or strats here. Pretty much all of the optimization here comes in collecting the star bits as quickly as possible. You can see Ginkgo doing a very good job of that, hitting the final planet with 94 and collecting the last ones he needs just now. Very nice. As I said, this lad needs 100, and he will form another planet that we will need to use to get across. Mr.Arska having a slightly harder time, but the 2P cursor here is a big help. And again, there's not too much to talk about for the rest of this level. At the super, super high level, there is a cycle that you want to make inside that small pill planet. That saves, I think it's 2 or 3 seconds. It's not the end of the world if you don't get it, but it requires super optimal movement throughout these last couple of planets. Not a big deal either way. You'll see what I mean once Ginkgo actually gets inside the thing. You can see that Crusher off to his right. He's not quite going to make it. but in an ideal world, you get into that just before it comes down, and again, you save a couple of seconds waiting for it to come back up. Now you can see Ginkgo at the end there throwing away his star bits. They create a text box at the end of each level when you get them, just like that 1-up that Mr.Arska just collected. And so we generally like to throw away star bits on levels where we don't need them, in order to save that 1 second on text boxes. Players both collected a whole whack of them in the first Good Egg level, just because you need a whole bunch of star bits, so you might as well collect the, you know, somewhere between 50 to 80 star bits from there. But generally, you'll see the players collecting 0 star bits, 0 coins as well, similar text box issue. So yeah, Ginkgo heading over to the first sort of run killer level of the run already. This galaxy is called Honey Hive, and this features a trick that is pretty annoying if you're not used to it. Mr.Arska going back into Good Egg 3. Okay, so that means that he is doing a very slightly different route than Ginkgarbor is doing. And I will talk about the differences in but a moment, but this is where the paths diverge for just a little bit. You're going to see Mr.Arska heading into Honey Hive as well, shortly after finishing that star. So as you saw from the fly-in from Ginkgo, there's usually this whole thing about, you know, going across all the planets and helping the queen bee solve for itch and all of that. We're not going to do that. We're going to do a little bit of tree jumping over here. And we're kind of just going to skip the whole level if that's alright with you guys. I don't know if anybody was super looking forward to seeing this, but, sorry. Ginkgo going for a pretty spicy 2P version of the skip, I think. And he gets it. Very nice. And the toads are situated just at the top of this tree. So we're gonna spend no time at all getting over there. Very nice. That 2P version of the trick was discovered somewhat recently. It allows you to take advantage of backwards momentum, which for anyone who's played any Mario game will understand is absolutely busted. Now it does seem like I'm talking about nothing but Ginkgo, the reason being that the level Mr.Arska is doing kind of unimpressive in terms of the platforming. The level itself, not Mr.Arska's performance, I should mention. He is heading up to one very interesting skip here. This is called Bridge Skip. This bridge, we're going to try to skip it. There's an invisible wall between you and the octopuses, so you need to be very careful about where you jump. Mr.Arska choosing a slightly safer version that goes on the outside of the wall. More than 6 months ago? Well, excuse me. I don't know anything about 2P. I only heard about it last week. And if I just heard about it, it just became a thing. And now heading up to the boss fight is Mr.Arska. This is another one of those hit it 3 times. Now, there's a very important reason the players are doing different stars here, and that is because of star bits. Mr.Arska here needs to do this level to collect about 70 star bits, maybe a little bit more. Whereas Ginkgo is going to be collecting them at a different level. And I will get to that in a moment. But first he's going to head on over to the second Honey Hive level. It's going to start out eerily similar to the first. We're also going to do a little bit more tree climbing. Hope you all are ready to monkey around a little, even though this is a level about bees. I don't know. So there you go, Ginkgo doing an excellent job of modeling the mid-air 2P jump, having a little bit of issue with the slope there. Sometimes you just kind of turn around and it trolls you. It's kind of fun like that. So you can see him making his way on up. Very nice. Now this time we're going to stick to the first tree. Going to get up this tower here. Usually there's a whole thing about hitting a switch and then these windmills activate. The arms of the windmills are thick enough that you can actually stand on them, which is pretty cool. And then we have this little mini-boss. Yeah, nothing too impressive there. The platforming is nice, but of course, the man-to-bug stack is far from the most engaging boss. Mr.Arska now heading on over to Honey Hive 1. Ginkgo put a lot of pressure on him by getting that tree skip the first try. So we're going to need to really hope for Mr.Arska that he's able to do so as well. It's a very difficult trick. It saves about 40 seconds over doing the level normally. But if you fail it, it costs you roughly 20 seconds every time, depending on your movement. We may see a well, we're going to see a slightly different version for Mr.Arska. The version that Ginkgo did is 2P only. I'm very curious to see if Mr.Arska goes for... Ooh, he's having a bit of trouble getting up on the tree. You're not supposed to be on this tree. Why it's out of bounds, and... Oh, he's... The textures here are kind of weird sometimes. There we go, he finally gets the correct wall kick. And I'm curious to see if he goes for the front or back version. Okay, so he goes for a similar version to create backwards momentum. There's a version you can do where you just kind of jump off to the left, and you can jump at the tree forwards. It's a little bit harder. Mr.Arska definitely taking it safe here, also taking advantage of backwards momentum, slinging himself across, and he's good to go. So a slightly slower setup than Ginkgo had, but he's playing it safe. As you can see from Ginkgo's screen, this is another level where there's not really too much in the way of platforming, and then there's another boss. That symbol on his back, the universal symbol for ground pounding, you know how it is. Some say that there's an actual, like, in-universe reason for that. Like, it's not just a message to the player, it's actually kind of like a marking of some sort. But, I don't know my lore well enough to delve into that topic. So Ginkgo doing a very nice job cleaning up this boss. Not too much to talk about. The first run actually has quite a few bosses. Or the first little bit of the run. Ginkgo's going to be doing 2 more stars and then running into another boss fight, and then after that, the next 3 levels have 2 boss fights in them. So there's a lot of bosses at the start of this. Alright, Mr.Arska heading his way back into Honey Hive 2. There was a little bit at the start there where Rosalina wanted to talk about the toads. They've made their home here as well. Not sure how they got here, but, you know, they don't even have their ship finished yet, but they somehow made it onto the space station. Don't ask me how that works. Mario games have never made any sense. So Ginkgo now making his way into Loop-de-Loop. This is where the route differs from the one Mr.Arska is doing, because Ginkgarbor has access to the 2P cursor. He's going to be riding the Manta Ray, which is probably one of the motion control mechanics that is kind of hated the least. And normally when you play this 1P, your 1P cursor goes away. However, the 2P cursor stays on, so you can collect star bits. Right, that's the name of the game with the route these two gentlemen are doing, star bits. As I said, you need 1,400 of them, and that's not necessarily trivial to obtain. So this is where the 2 players take advantage, or the 2P players, I should say, take advantage of their second remote. Mr.Arska is going for a very slightly different version of the trick that Ginkgarbor went for. Instead of doing what we call tower climb, this is called tower skip, where he's going to make his way up here, and then there's going to be a nice backflip and wall kick that he's going to do off this sort of, what do you want to call that thing? Truncated log? Stump? I don't know. And he's going to make his way right over to the tower. Not quite. Yeah, sometimes you can tell that we're kind of like breaking the game because sometimes things just stop working. Mr.Arska's momentum just kind of tanked there for no reason. But thankfully, this tower climb is actually relatively straightforward as long as you're careful, and he's able to do that backup with no issue. So it only loses a couple seconds, not the end of the world. So you can see Ginkgo now. He is collecting star bits as he goes. It's actually a little bit of a difficult task trying to optimize your movement through the course while collecting a lot of star bits. But you know, that's just one of the many trials and tribulations of your average 2P runner. I think I can sync the timers just a little bit better. Let me... There we go. Yeah, about a minute for Ginkgo. That's a pretty reasonable time. With Mr.Arska heading into Honey Hive 3, we can say that Ginkgo is about a star ahead, because now the routes will converge, and provided Mr.Arska is doing the route I think he's doing, which he almost certainly is, they should be doing the exact same stars from here on out. So yeah, as you can see, I didn't really talk about the platforming in Good Egg or in Honey Hive 3 when Ginkgarbor was there because it's relatively unimpressive. As we all know, Super Mario Galaxy speedrunning is nothing but long jumping. Ginkgo, you've already done that one. Get out of there. Head over to Flip Switch, the more interesting of the two sort of one-star levels. This level is really simple. There's pretty much only one cycle you have to make, and the movement for this is super tight. You either get it or you don't, which is kind of true of everything ever, but I will leave you on that. So yeah, the movement Ginkgo's going to do here is kind of going to speak for itself. You'll see it all coalesces very nicely. He's going to just avoid that red spiky thing, don't know what it's called. Bridge the gap with a very nicely placed single jump, and then be just in time to meet that second spiky thing, and a nice triple jump to go right into the star. That is about as much optimization as you can do for that level, and Ginkgarbor is showing it off very nicely. So as I said, Ginkgo heading into another boss fight. Every dome ends with either a Bowser Jr. or Bowser fight for a Grand Star, and then that Grand Star will unlock the next dome, and we'll rinse and repeat that about 4 times. Unfortunately, this is not Super Mario 64, where we can just backwards long jump and wahoo our way through the walls. Unfortunately, the loading zones don't activate until you get Grand Stars, so we kind of have to get these all manually. Anyways, these two planets are connected a lot better than y'all may think. Those two gravity fields are very close together. I guess the devs didn't want anything like crazy happening with Megaleg, so they made the gravity field the size of like 3 or 4 planets. And Ginkgo bridging the gap there with a very nice 2P jump. A similar version exists for the 1P runners like myself, where you can just do a triple jump, no big deal. Mr.Arska having a little bit of trouble with the triple jump. It looks like he held left a little bit, trying to avoid the electricity, and wasn't quite able to get it, but it only loses like 2 or 3 seconds. It's far from the end of the world. Making my way downtown, walking fast, or long jumping fast, I guess, right? And we're gonna play a little bit of game of Stop Hitting Yourself. Spoiler alert, he does not stop hitting himself. Normally they want you to get a couple of bullet bills and break open a bunch of these cages, but bullet bills are very nicely going to follow him up and over it, and that is Megaleg defeated. Very nice from Ginkgo. Going to be a low 26 terrace from him, not too shabby at all. Mr.Arska hot on his heels. And we do have ourselves quite an interesting race. Ginkgo trying to collect the star bits as close to collecting the Grand Star as possible. That's because, for reasons unbeknownst to me, 26, maybe a 26 flat terrace, that's hot. Reasons unbeknownst to me, the star bits will actually duplicate if you collect them at the very same time as you collect the star. So, we'll know it worked if Ginkgarbor gets more than 28 star bits, because there are 28 physical star bits on the stage. Mr.Arska demonstrating the 1P strat that I talked about. You can do a triple jump off the cage. You can also do a triple jump just off the starting platform, but it's extremely tight and kind of frustrating. So I'm not at all surprised that he went for the slightly less mind-numbing option. Ginkgo not getting any duplication. Looks like he only got 24. He might have... There's 4 on the starting planet that I assume he didn't get. So, fair enough. As a 2P runner, star bits are hardly a scarce commodity, so I don't think he's going to be wanting for them anytime soon. So yeah, a little bit more story exposition. This game is kind of weird because most of the super hard tricks are kind of front-loaded. You're going to be doing most of them within the first hour or so, but there's also the most like story and cutscenes. So there's a good mix of hard stuff and just boring watch me and wait. Mr.Arska not getting quite high enough to avoid the cage. He's going to have to grab another one. That's why most of us will backflip instead of doing this double jump, but he's able to get over the second time, and will come out of this with a high 27. So he's going to be a little under 2 minutes behind Ginkgo. Definitely not the... definitely not an insurmountable gap, but perhaps not where he wants to be if he wants to keep this a fight. So we have Ginkgo now heading into Space Junk 1, home to one of the most infamously frustrating skips that seems kind of like RNG at times. Some say it isn't, but I say they're lying, so it's going to be my word versus theirs on that. We're going to be abusing backwards momentum here to get to some of those planets off in the distance. That's definitely not the setup Ginkgo wants. You'll see what I mean in a second. He's going to want Luigi to sort of face down or towards the screen. And if he does so correctly, we will see him blasting off into the cosmos and into the gravity field of these planets over here. Very nicely done indeed. That's sort of the main gimmick of this level. There's a skip he's going to do here as well. Normally you want to break the toads out of the crystals. But of course, level designs are kind of broken by the 2P jump, so there he goes. And now we're just going to collect some silver stars. This is a predetermined route. Nothing too crazy here. Some of the long jumps can be kind of tight, especially this one right here. This is a very common one to die on, but of course Ginkgo not going to let any simple mistakes like that get him down this early on. So yeah, third try, what we call pull star skip. Maybe not super optimal, but otherwise relatively clean Space Junk 1 from Mr. Ginkgarbor. The ace from Austria, as I call him. Not at any time before, just now. So yeah, as Mr. Arska heads into the level, there's a similar version of that 2P jump that Ginkgo did, that you can do as 1P, taking advantage of a well-placed triple jump. I'm not sure if Mr. Arska goes for it. It can be kind of frustrating to fail it. So we will have to see what he does there. He's got a bit of an interesting setup for this pull star skip. I'm not sure if I necessarily trust him on this one, but let's take a second and see what happens. Ooh, that's gonna be close. He can save this. No, he doesn't. That is not what you want to see. So as he tries to make his way and redeem himself with that, Ginkgo's going to be heading into Space Junk 2, which has nothing to do with Space Junk. It's just airships, because we need to have an airship in every Mario game for some reason. This is an interesting boss that he's going to go up against, Camilla, because we can actually manipulate her cycles before the run starts, which I assume Ginkgo did, being the diligent lad he is. Normally, if you do this boss casually, every sort of cycle, because of course she has 3 of them, she'll start by throwing a fireball and then a shell, much like these octopuses are doing. But by manipulating the cycles before the run starts, we can ensure that she actually starts out by throwing a shell. So you'll see that come the second phase here, because of course we're going to bring a shell with us, because it's just slightly faster. Very nice instant throw there to immediately advance to the second phase. And if he throws a shell, which they do, presto. So that saves somewhere in the ballpark of 10 to 15 seconds over doing it casually. And that's it. So both players getting through their levels with relatively little grief. I guess Mr. Arska was kind of wishing that his pull star skip worked first try, but that happens. That trick is very not fun, not cool, not helpful. Pick your words. Ginkgo is going to be heading into the 3rd Space Junk level to go for the... oh god, how many bosses have we had so far? This is going to be his 5th. Right? Have I done that right? You know, yeah, 5th. This is not a fun boss because it relies on the pointer, and the Wii is a very old console, so sensor bar issues happen frequently. Similar deal for Mr.Arska because the Switch uses just the rotors of the Joy-Con. There are often shenanigans that can occur with that boss, and they're not fun shenanigans. But, I don't know. I complain about it and people tell me to cry about it, so there's that. There's a pretty funky skip you can do here. If you crouch and spin and then uncrouch, your hitbox gets lowered just enough so that you can actually teleport inside the planet, which I think is kind of funny. It's a property of both Galaxy games, and there's a skip involving it in both Galaxy games. But Galaxy 2 doesn't exist, so we'll save that discussion for another day. And then again, a little bit more platforming stuff. Brave jumps from Mr. Ginkgo. I'm going to be going for a 2P jump here to skip over to the next planet. It's like a second of time save. And then the sling pods. Now there's an entire galaxy dedicated to sling pods, which we'll be covering momentarily, worry not. So if you're a big fan of the sticky stuff, then stick around. Oh, that was funny. So yeah, fairly straightforward boss. Poke in the butt, and then hit the things on the underside. We're going to weaponize the toad here to fire off one of them, so we only need to shoot ourselves 5 times. At the super duper top level, there's a trick you can do where you fire the toad into the butt, just as the boss flips over, but it is incredibly annoying to do, especially given that the pointers are very unreliable sometimes. You are not alone with those problems, Zerg. We experience them every day, and boy do they suck. But there you go. Ginkgo getting through that with relatively little difficulty. Looks like Mr.Arska set up the boss as well, so a very quick Camilla fight for him as well. This is a bit of a difficult star to grab, Ginkgo, because, pointers! But he's through it. Alright, show of hands. Who liked those sling pods so much that they want to see another level dedicated to them? Because I sure don't. But, you know, I'm on commentary, so I don't get to decide what levels they do. So here is the first starbit checkpoint of the run. This is probably the hardest one to reach. Getting 400 starbits by the time you've finished 12 levels, or 11 levels, I should say. No, 12. Yeah, this is star number 13. I've played this game before, I think. But yeah, collecting the 400 starbits required to unlock this galaxy is what makes this route so difficult normally. But as I mentioned previously, both players playing in such a way that makes starbit collecting somewhat more optimized, so it's not going to be too difficult to hit. I think I saw Mr.Arska needs about 30 more starbits in order to unlock this, which is very easy to get from this galaxy. He will again show off the cool skip. He's going to lower his hitbox under the planet. There we go. The Ginkgo's level, very frustrating because nothing but pointers. Ugh. Kind of nasty. He's getting through it rather well. He's hit the second checkpoint, so he's definitely good to go in terms of progress. But as you can see, there's quite a bit going on here, and if you miss a single shot, more often than not, you just die. So, waiting out this last cycle, very clean. I am also a competitor in this tournament, and in my race, I lost a solid 45 seconds to that star, so Ginkgo's certainly playing better than me today. But that level itself, as you can see, very nice source of starbits. So the other 2 hungry Lumas that we will be collecting over the course of this run, much easier to hit. So now a nice little piece of routing tech here. The 13th star you collect sends you back to the front of the observatory, so Rosalina can tell you about prankster comets, which we'll get into in a moment. However, generally, when completing a Hungry Luma star, it sends you back to the front of the observatory anyways, so we can sort of combine those two sorts of instances in order to ensure that we have as little downtime as possible. So Mr.Arska finishing up the Terrantox fight here. Apparently, Terrantox canonically is a female. I don't know, I forget where I heard that, but some diligent chatter and some other match told us. I think it was on like a Spanish trivia card or something, I forget. What Ginkgo is heading into now, Battle Rock 1, is little more than an auto-scroller. There is one skip you can do in order to get past the auto-scroller, but it's widely considered the hardest trick in the game, so I don't think Ginkgo will be going for it. This route, at its inception, was aptly named No Battle Rock. We used to do 5 stars from this level, now we only do 2. So I guess it's not accurate to call it No Battle Rock. So at some point we changed the name to Going Commando. I think at one point it was also called like Pasta Carbonara or something. The co-founder or co-creator is Italian, so I don't know if it was his idea or if it was somebody trying to be funny. I only play the video game, I don't keep as up to date as I possibly should on the lore. Alright, I have finished my caffeine for the morning. I'm nice and wide awake. How are y'all doing? How's SpeedGaming 3 doing on this fine Saturday? So Ginkgo at the very end, he's got to bring the bullet bill into the cage. Fairly straightforward level. It's a little bit slow, but it will unlock a faster star later, so it's a sort of necessary evil there for us. I named it Route a la Carbonara. Ginkgo, I didn't ask. Get back to running. Speaking of Ginkgo, he's about to enter the first prankster comet of the run. This is probably the least interesting. This is the Speedy Comet, the only one that we do in this run. It basically puts a time limit on how fast you can complete the stage, but like, we're already doing that, so thanks for nothing, I guess. I suppose the more important restriction it puts on is that there are no checkpoints, I should say. So if you die, which sometimes happens in the Silver Star section, normally you would just go back to the start of the Silver Star section, but in this, you go back to here. So, Ginkgo, don't die. Dolmas and hummus with pita for breakfast. That sounds a lot better than what I had. I had a cinnamon scone. Second try pull star skip for Ginkgo, very nice, you love to see it. Ginkgo going to show off Sludgy Hop here, an example of a super triple jump, very nice. Yeah, gravity in this game is extremely weird, and so when you go around a slope, which is what Ginkgo just did when the sort of gravity changes direction, there's this hidden property in the game called tilt, which sort of changes depending on the angle of the slope you're standing on and the direction your character is facing. It's a really complicated topic that I don't feel nearly qualified enough to talk about on the fly, especially because I've already been talking for some 45 minutes. But you're going to be seeing the players taking advantage of it multiple times throughout the run. So the ray surfing was the first motion control. level. This is, I guess it's not a motion, or no, this is a motion control level, excuse me. I'm getting my levels mixed up. Ginkgo's going to show off the second one, the Star Ball, which is my least favorite. Now, is that because it's objectively bad, or is that just because the controls work like garbage on the Switch? I'll leave that for the philosophers to debate. But this is not a fun star. It's relatively straightforward, or at least it can be. There's really only one skip, and it saves like 3 seconds, so you don't even have to go for it if you don't want to. But somebody, and I'm not going to say who, may or may not have died twice on this in their personal best and lost 45 seconds, and so they're somewhat bitter, and they're going to take it out on the runners. I'm, again, not going to say who. Not going to name any names. And we are off to the races. So here comes the skip here. Ginkgo's going to show it off because he's so good at doing the things I ask him to. Very nice. Lands right on the rail. Yeah, that's a really... That trick is definitely not worth it. Like I said, if you hit it, you save like 3 seconds, and if you fail it, you die. So... But it's not the hardest trick ever. So yeah, Ginkgo's moving his way around, using his Wii Remote as a joystick, all that fun stuff. And then a nice little bit of optimized movement there, getting right on top of the flagpole for the star. Very nice indeed. Bitter steak? I'm not bitter, you're bitter. Grumble, grumble. Alright, third grand star of the run, here goes Ginkgo. The first proper Bowser encounter. Ooh, Mr.Arska having a little bit of trouble with the pull star skip. This skip is kind of finicky. If you release too early, you won't make it to the set of planets that you want, but if you release too late, you'll get pulled into the set of planets just above you. So the window is super tight, and you need to be facing the correct way, which he is this time, thankfully. It's a really dumb trick, and we all kind of hate it, but here goes Ginkgo, jumping off into the brave wilds. Taking a death there, that is intentional. If you hear other commentators acting surprised, they are playing you for fools. That is what we call a death warp. Unlike Galaxy 2, which uses actual like checkpoint flags, this game just sort of has like checkpoint zones. And so there happens to be one just under that platform, which allows us to go further into the star. The jury's still out on whether or not it actually saves time over just like walking the course, but the cycles you get here are somewhat more friendly. Alright, Ginkgo going for a very spicy 2P trick here. Let's see if he's able to do it. If he gets this mid-air 2P jump... No, just slightly too far back. The goal is to get into the loading zone for the fight, which doesn't require you to land on the platform. It only requires you to get, like, relatively close. Ginkgo holding back just a little bit too much. He wanted to be a little bit closer to the platform when he did the when he did the 2P jump. That time he gets it perfectly, and as you can see, he was not on the platform, but he's still able to trigger the boss fight. And we are moving on to this lad. Now we're going to see Bowser 3 times over the course of this run. Each time he gets slightly more difficult, in theory. I still think the second fight is harder than the third one, but maybe there's some people who disagree. This level is chock full of fun shenanigans. Ginkgo getting to the planet a little bit later than I'd have liked him to. Normally you can spin into Bowser's head to cancel that first attack, which saves a little bit of time. But there's the gimmick of this stage. You're going to be making Bowser jump into those blue circles that he put there on his own volition. What are you doing, bud? Okay, there we go. Ginkgo showing it off that time. Spinning into Bowser's face, canceling the attack, and immediately causing him to jump. Ginkgo, did you not know that? Yeah, you ground pound into the planet, and then you immediately jump and you spin its head. Alright, Ginkgo showing off that fight very nicely. That's the basic gist of it. You make him stomp himself into the fire, and then you spin him a whole bunch of times, and eventually he comes crashing back down to this main planet. So you can see Mr.Arska here going through rolling green. One thing that the players do to sort of optimize their route is to not jump, which is what Mr.Arska is doing right now. Because if you ever jump, when you land, you lose all momentum. Similarly, if you run over a Goomba, that counts as a jump, so when you land, you'll have no momentum. Ginkgo did that fairly well. He optimized his movement to ensure he jumped as little as possible. Grand star get indeed. Ginkgo has a 47-minute and 56-second-ish fountain. Really, really good stuff. And he slides his way on over to the third dome, into the kitchen with him. A little bit more story stuff here, so I will use this as my chance to get a drink of water. Uh-oh, mod check. Mr.Arska very nicely... Ooh, not actually getting the death warp. I didn't see what happened there. I think he might be a little bit too far to the left, not quite getting into the loading zone. Okay, that time he gets it, fair enough. Yeah, the loading zone is, of course, invisible, so it can be a little bit hard to get sometimes, but no big deal. He's going to be making his way through the rest of the level, all good. Ginkgo going to be sliding his way on over to Beach Bowl 1. Yes, it looks like a toilet. Apparently, my co-commentator from about a week ago never saw it like that, and I have ruined his life forever, as intended. Now, normally there's a triple jump here that you can use to show off tilt again, but of course, as with most things in this game, good level design is just destroyed by the 2P jump. Friendship has ended with steak. Who needs friends when I have a 225 PB? Let's go. Woo! Ooh, Mr.Arska very slightly missing the blue circle. It's kind of tricky to hit sometimes because sometimes Bowser doesn't follow you like 100%. And so sometimes he undercompensates for where you should be. It's a bit of a pain. Beach Bowl 2 is not an interesting level. It's probably the level where you feel like the most garbage if you die, which has happened to me before. But it's just going to be a little bit of penguin bullying, which, I don't know, I think we all need to do. In these trying times, go bully a penguin in a video game. Hit the blue circle. Come on, Bowser. There we go. Very nice. And, oh, Ginkgo finished the level. Yeah, that's a fairly straightforward star. Yeah, the next star, Beach Bowl 3. This is an interesting star, at least I think. Home to one of the more confusing tricks of the run. But we will get there when we get there. Alright, so Ginkgo has extended his lead to something like 2.5-ish stars. So really showing his class so far this run. He's going to do a little bit more penguin bullying, steal a shell, and break open the undersea cavern that they explicitly tell you not to break open. Those fools were hiding at least 1 star from us. Fun fact, there's a funny warp you can do here. If you fall off that stump that Ginkgo was on just as you enter the star, as soon as you bonk here, you will fly off into the distance and probably die. It's really funny when it happens, as long as you're not the person running. If you're the person running, it's generally not funny. And here comes the skip. Ginkgo's going to try to get a wall kick off of this wall here. Does get it. Sometimes you just kind of slide off that wall into the black hole below, and you're just like, well, guess I'll die. Literally. And so, thankfully, Ginkgo saving himself from that unfortunate fate here. We're going to see a second Prankster Comet here appear above Beach Bowl Galaxy, but we're not going to do it. We're instead going to slide over to show off the third with a big asterisk motion control level. I don't think this is technically a motion control level, but I'm going to count it because I like things in 3s. The bubble. Okay, Mr.Arska showing off the triple jump here. That triple jump is affected by the tilt property I was talking about earlier. He's just barely able to get up that. That jump with Mario is not very fun, but thankfully Mario doesn't exist, so we don't care. Mario died on March 31st. Nice frame-perfect jump there from Ginkgo. For those unaware, when you enter a stage, when you come out of a launch star, the very same frame you touch the floor, if you press A, you do a jump instead of that landing animation that he does. And it saves, you know, maybe a second-ish, sometimes more, depending on the stage. There are a couple of super cool frame-perfect jumps that we'll hopefully get to show off, provided the players are nice and precise. It's just a frame-perfect jump. Come on, do it. But we'll see what happens. And then we could do the rest of the stage, or we could just do a jump off a wall that was, for whatever reason, left on top of those rocks. So yeah, keep an eye on Mr.Arska over here. He's in the least interesting Beach Bowl level, so we will let him do his thing and bully some penguins. In concept, bullying penguins is fun. In execution, it's just kind of whatever. You're just going to steal a shell. He's not quite taking optimal routing here. You kind of want to go like immediately over to the island, but it can be a little bit disorienting when you're underwater and you're kind of far away, so fair enough. And now Ginkgo heading back into Beach Bowl to collect the secret star. Not so much of a secret to us, but I assume it's a secret to someone. This route is so efficient that we do this star, or I should say, we delay doing the comet for later because it creates an extra star on the star select screen. And so more often than not, we're trying to do the comet as late as possible in a galaxy, ideally the last or second to last star, just to avoid having the extra star appear on the screen. It is super cool. So this level, the aptly named Wall Kicking Up Waterfalls involves some wall kicking up waterfalls. Introduces the Ice Flower, which is my favorite power-up from this game, bar none. And then backflip 2P jump. Kind of just ratios any attempt at good level design. Alright, Mr.Arska is now heading into Beach Bowl 3. It is his turn to do battle with the Beach Bowl 3 skip. We'll see how he does with this one. Ginkgo's going to be heading over into Ghostly Galaxy. We're going to get some Luigi's Mansion vibes over here, except they're not It's not Luigi's mansion, he's just kind of living in it. As you can see here, there are 2 Luigis. Mr.Arska, don't get squished! Okay, thanks. That Toxbox likes to troll. Unfortunately, not quite going to have the movement to make that second Toxbox cycle. That's generally what you want to see. A little bit unfortunate there. Now it's his turn to do battle with the skip. Let's see if he does it. Spinning, perfect timing. Very nice. Players are 2 for 2 thus far. Alright, Ginkgo entering Ghostly 1. He's going to be collecting the Rainbow Star. This will be important later, partially because it just makes you move faster. As you can see, Luigi is moving. He is grooving. He's sliding his way down. But also because we want to kill this Boo. And so a very precise spin to move the Boo exactly where we want it, and then jumping right into it. All is good there. And with that, Ginkgo is through the first couple of sections of Ghostly 1. Heading over here, this is where they introduced the Boo Mushroom, which we will be using in a second, but not quite in the way the game's intended. Funny thing about this is that most floors are only solid one way, so we're just kind of going to clip inside of it if it's all the same with you. Ooh, a little bit low there, but still able to get in through the floor, and Ginkgo is thus inside the mansion. And there we go, Luigi is saved, but like a different Luigi than the one that we're using for some reason. As Mr.Arska goes through Bubble Breeze, he hasn't made any mistakes, any major mistakes either. And as I say that, he's probably going to go careening into the mine because commentator's curse is a thing. Nope, okay, good. See, if I just say that he's going to get cursed, then he won't get cursed because I've cursed the curse, yeah? That's how it works. Yeah, Mr.Arska not making any major mistakes on his part either. So it's definitely good. The players are definitely playing at least pretty close to their ability. So the benefit of saving Luigi is that Luigi will be popping up in certain levels later on, as we'll actually get to demonstrate in about 3 minutes. But before we do that, we're going to feed the second Hungry Luma. And you're going to see a nice little piece of overworld movement optimization from Ginkgo here. Generally, launch stars take about a second or 2 to prime before you can use them. And so instead of waiting around, we're going to go talk to Luigi. Because if you want Luigi to be appearing in future levels, you need to talk to him now. Or, well, not now, but any time beforehand. He needs to be talked to first. So there we go. Luigi has been talked to, his social obligations for the day have been met, and we slide our way over into the most thrilling galaxy, which I'm not going to talk about because it's actually not thrilling and kind of boring. So there. We are going to see Ginkgo do about 25 long jumps, and that's about it. I am much more interested in watching the player using the Ice Flower use the Ice Flower. There he goes, up the waterfall. What a dashing lad. Now, we saw Ginkgo go for a 2-piece strat. We're going to see Mr.Arska do it the intended way, which is where you grab this this thing called the Cataquack. These things are super annoying, which is generally why we prefer to skip them, but this is a little bit safer. And, of course, that's the intended way. Alright. So Ginkgo's through the boring level, now we get a couple of interesting levels. We're going to slide our way back to the observatory, and again, taking advantage of this sort of overlapping observatory movement. We go back to the front of the observatory once because we've completed the level, and once because the male toad wants to talk to us, and that's because Luigi's in a galaxy. Now, as I said, Luigi appears in random levels, he gets stuck, and so has to ask Luigi to... The other Luigi has to save him. This time he's on top of a house. Don't know how he got there, but there he is. So, you know, go get him, Ginkgo. He always appears in the first level of the galaxy, and you can sort of see him on top of the roof, and we're just going to slide our way on over to him, and there we go. That's a star. So as I said, very, very fast stars coming up. Star get. Mr.Arska also having a very nice star chip room, taking great advantage of that rainbow star. And now before we leave this, we're also going to do our first Cosmic Clone run. Now the Cosmic Clone is another Luigi that you take a race against. He's actually pretty fast. If you follow the same route as him, he's actually kind of good at what he does. But of course we are going to cheat because we are dirty cheaters. Mr.Arska doing an interesting version of the skip. I don't think that's quite what you want to do. Yeah, he wants to be holding on to... Okay, that works. Generally we like to take the top pole star instead of the one on the left. It's a slightly more forgiving window, but I'm not going to knock him if it works. So off Ginkgo goes. And now we're going to see the Cosmic Clone go off to the left. We're going to go off to the right because we're always right. And just slide our way down here. Fun race. GG, noob. So I just looked over at Mr.Arska's screen. He's also good on star bits for this second star bit sort of checkpoint. The last one that the players are going to need to hit is 600 star bits by the very end of the run. We're going to be doing a third Hungry Luma as the 59th star. Just trying to remember the route off the top of my head, but yes, it's 59th. So we just showed off the Cosmic Clone Comet, now we're going to be showing off the Fast Foe Comet over here on Beach Bowl. As the name suggests, the foes are going to be moving fast, twice as fast, believe it or not. And by foes, I mean the Thwomps and the Tox Boxes. So thankfully the movement is pretty much the exact same as when we were here for Beach Bowl 3. So nothing too complicated going on here. He's going to make his way over, he's going to do a cute little long jump, and then another cute little long jump, and then like 3 or 4 more long jumps. Now the trick, can Ginkgo make it 3 for 3? Yes, he can. Very good. Mr.Arska taking it a little safer in here, understandable. The walls here kind of attract you like a magnet. I have had a few times where I just kind of like turn off to the direction very slightly and then I'm careening into a wall and dying about it. Because of course, every time you hit a wall, you also don't land on the floor, you land in one of the holes that's perfectly curated for right where Luigi's going to fall. Because this game hates you. Now, if I've done my research correctly, Ghostly 2 is up next. This is a little fun one. You're going to do a race against the Spooky Speedster. It's a whole bunch of Polestar stuff, so, you know, pointers, your own. If anyone in chat wants to take a guess at what time Ginkgo's going to get, good guesses, 10 and 46, 47 seconds, depending on how much the player has practiced this. So Arska heading on over to Good Egg Luigi. Or Good Egg Letter, depending on what you think the L stands for. He goes for a triple jump version, slightly safer, slightly slower than what Ginkgo went for. And going just a little bit too far to the right to trigger the Luigi. You gotta watch the meat there. Oh, Ginkgo, no! Yeah, there's no way that you can really, like, die here unless you send yourself into the black hole that's on the course. You can do that intentionally. I don't know how to do it unintentionally. But, it's possible. 47.68. Probably not the time Ginkgo was looking for, but it's only a few seconds, no big deal. He's going to be heading into probably one of the more technical levels in terms of skips, as Mr.Arska heads off to go cheat his cosmic clone. Now, if Mr.Arska gets off the starting boost, there we go. So as you saw, if you hold Z, you crouch, and you do that sort of crouching start pose. And if you press A within 5 frames of start appearing, you get that boost, which is where he was glowing gold and was running super fast and all that fun stuff. You were the closest guess. What's your prize? A crisp high five, except I can't actually high five you because I don't know where you live. So you can either rectify that information, or you can be content with the fact that you would get a high five, because that's about all I can offer. So this section, we're just kind of going to ignore every single part of it. Like normally they want you to get a key, we're going to ignore that. Normally here they want you to get a key, and we're going to ignore that. This trick is aptly known as keyless. If Ginkgo can backflip in the correct direction, we might get to show it off. There it is. And very nice. Ginkgo, you get a high five if you get crump jump first try. So Ginkgo showing off a very nice little piece of tech there. Those doors that you might not have been able to see super well just because of the camera, but there are doors that appear on that sort of auto-scroller, and the frames are actually already loaded in, even though the textures are not. So we were able to do some precise wall kicks and jumps and such off of them in order to ascend great heights without the help of the auto-scroller that you would normally need. So very cool stuff overall. And finally, to end off the kitchen, we're heading over into probably the most chaotic boss fight of the entire run. Bowser Jr. the Second. Boy oh boy is this boss fight frustrating. The level itself leading up to it is fairly pedestrian. We're going to shoot off over this way. Normally they want you to shoot off straight in front of you, but we just kind of say no. We're good at saying no. And make our way over here. And that is the entire level. Now it's just onto the boss fight. Yeah, this level is fairly straightforward. You're going to hit Bowser Jr. 5 times with the shell, but it's a little bit harder than that. So it starts off with just cannonballs, which is fine, and then we also get some bullet bills, which for now is fine. There's a Magic Koopa, but we're thankfully going to take that out. And now on to phase 2. Ooh. Mistiming the throw just slightly, getting fireballed there. But thankfully Ginkgo able to get it the second try. 6 bullet bills, but we are too fast, and Ginkgo already out of there. Very nice. It was definitely quite fortunate for him that at the end of the third hit, the bullet bills took out the first Magic Koopa. because sometimes there will be 2 of them there, and sometimes when you go to throw the shell, it will like lock onto the Magic Koopa instead of Bowser Jr. And so you're just throwing off shells futile. It's such a dumb star sometimes. But a 112.39, it looks like, from Ginkgo. Really respectable sort of first half. You could definitely see him on something like 227 pace, maybe 228. Mr.Arska heads his way into Ghostly 2. He's also going to take down the Spooky Speedster. This level is kind of trivial to win just because there's a Sling Star about a little under halfway through the race. That one off in the distance there. It's kind of cheating. You just kind of skip over like a solid quarter of the race. So nothing too complicated going on there. An interesting route through the minefield here. Most of the time we like to stick to the right, just because there's a nice beeline path through there. So Ginkgarbor diligently remembering to talk to the Toad. You need to talk to him manually for the second and third times that you're going to go save Luigi. He talks to you the first time, but after that you're on your own. Before we go save Luigi, we're going to do probably the most boring star in the game. I cannot think of anything interesting to say about this. So I'm not going to. We're instead going to focus on Mr.Arska, who is now heading on over to Ghostly Secret himself. So let's see what he's got going for us. Now, Mr.Arska won't be going for the exact same strategy that Ginkgo went for, because of course he lacks the second controller to do so. There is a 1P... there's a couple of 1P variants of the trick that Ginkgo did, in order to also get a whole bunch of wall kicks off of invisible walls. But they are slightly harder, especially because Mr.Arska is playing on Switch, and the Joy-Con does not have notches, so it can be kind of difficult to face in a very specific direction. Like, most of these jumps require you to be holding either, like, directly back, or sometimes directly right, or directly right up, sort of thing. And so it can be kind of difficult sometimes, but we shall see. So he's at least collecting the first one. There is a variant of the skip where you only collect the first one, but it looks like Mr.Arska will indeed be waiting out the auto-scroller. Fair enough. Pretty safe option. I'm not going to blame him at all for that. There's a minor optimization you can do here where you can take a triple jump from the platform he's currently standing on in order to get up to the platform with the star. It doesn't look like he's going to do that either. He's actually going to fully wait it out. Ooh, that could have gone badly. And now Ginkgo on his way over to the second Luigi thing. It's another auto-scroller. The exact same auto-scroller as last time, believe it or not. This is the exact same level as Battle Rock 1, except Luigi is under the final planet instead of over it. So, if you love auto-scrollers, you're going to want to keep your eyes on stage left, or stage right. I never did theater, I forget which side is which. Otherwise, check out Mr.Arska to see the most chaotic boss fight once again. Yeah, not too much to talk about here. Both of these players are in relatively uninteresting levels as far as the level itself is concerned. As I said, the fun of Bowser Jr. 2 lies not in the actual stage, but in the boss fight. And of course, Ginkgo over here finishing up an auto-scroller by bringing the bullet bill under the platform instead of over it. That is the only difference. So if you expect me to say something interesting about it, you are looking in the wrong place. My apologies. Now, Luigi here pulling out a green star, and the green stars are not something we necessarily care about in any percent, aside from the fact that collecting this first one actually, again, brings you back to the front of the observatory. If you do the full 120 star category, these green stars unlock the trial galaxies, which is just another 3 galaxies. But for here, we use them only for their teleportation. And by there, I mean 1. It's only this one that teleports us. So now, Ginkgo off to the bedroom. I think the bedroom is the least exciting dome, which kind of fits. It's very relaxing, which is probably what you want out of a bedroom. It's got the galaxy that a lot of people consider their favorite, that being Freeze Flame, the one that Ginkgo is entering right now. I definitely think it's an interesting stage, but in terms of speedrunning, it's not my favorite. So Freeze Flame 1 here, this level's pretty cool. Mr.Arska looks to be about 6 minutes behind Ginkgo. As we can see from the red font on his timer, he's probably not doing so hot, depending on what he's comparing against. But, you know, still doing pretty well, all things considered. I've not seen too many, like, super major mistakes from either player. Definitely some inaccuracies here and there, but, I mean, it's a race. You're going to expect it, especially in a game like this that's 2.5 hours long. So, this level, I will say, Freeze Flame 1 does have some very nice platforming, featuring a triple jump there. And now what we're going to be trying to do is we're going to be carrying this ice flower all the way to the top of the mountain. Well, not all the way to the top, that's a different star, but as high as we can go on this side. We're going to see he's going to try to triple jump, land on the question block, immediately go over to the sling star. That is super nice movement. And up to another boss fight. Now this boss is really dumb. But you're getting the idea from Ginkgo there. You're basically going to spin this boss 6 times. This time he spawns those 2 little blue dudes, but we kind of just don't care. And yeah, I think the platforming for that level is interesting. The boss fight is very much not. Kind of the opposite of Bowser Jr. 2 when you think about it. So, you know, if you combine those 2 levels, they're either really fun or really boring. Depending on which aspects you combine. We will discuss what Mr.Arska is doing more once he gets past the 2 boring levels, but unfortunately he's in the intermezzo portion of the run that sort of combines the first and second half. As Ginkgo heads into Freeze Flame 2, we just got the freeze, now we're going to get the flame. This level's pretty hot. Get it? Cause fire? Yeah. So we're going to be collecting star chips here. A nice thing Ginkgo's doing is that after he shakes to spin open the crystal, he goes neutral on his control stick, so Luigi stops moving for a second. This is because if you keep moving forward, Luigi will just pass through the star chip without collecting it. So this is just to ensure that the star chip has the, you know, half second it needs to load in and become tangible. So it's not as much an optimization as much as it is just dealing with this game's, one of its many quirks, put it like that. Now there's a couple of skips you can do in this section. I assume Ginkgo's going to go for a relatively straightforward one. There's one you can do where you grab that red mushroom that you can see off in the background, and by doing a long jump off of a specific piece of lava, you can skip across to the very end. But it's an incredibly dumb trick. It only saves about 0.6 seconds, and I do not think that anyone should ever go for it, but some people do. Cute little damage boost to bridge the gap without spinning. And now a very dangerous long jump here. We're We're gonna light the torches in person, and there we go. That is a star. So that's all we're going to see from Freeze Flame for a moment. As I said earlier, we're going to be trying to do the comets as late into each galaxy as possible. So here, Freeze Flame Comet is going to appear. Ooh, Mr.Arska, not quite getting the movement I'd like to see. You want to be under the platform when the bullet bill appears, so that you can more easily, like, bring it under you. But Mr.Arska having it there. Sometimes the bullet bill just kind of crashes against the bottom of the platform, and that's obviously not what you want to see. You want it to crash into the cage, but... So now we head on over to Gusty Garden, the poster music of the game. Is that even a term? Poster music? The music of Galaxy. Pretty great. Some people say it's overrated. I think it's a classic for a reason. We're going to be sliding across on some floaty fluff. This is the Galaxy's main gimmick, I would say. Ginkgo doing a very good job of making sure that he long jumps into it to ensure that he gets as much momentum as possible, as well as spinning when you're inside of these airstreams to get a little bit more height. And now he's going to be trying to ride this one about as far as he can. He's going to want to skip this first green planet that he's going to be passing over just now. Going to be going for that slightly lighter green one in the background there. There we go. And now a well-placed triple jump here will allow him to jump into the next one, and we are good to go. Ooh, losing his sort of stun on that plant a little bit too early, but getting it the second time, and Ginkgo is on his way over to the cube to chase after yet another bunny. Now, I think that this bunny is possibly the hardest one to collect. There's a trick here where Ginkgo's going to be going for a long jump to try to jump right into the bunny. Very finicky stuff, but we'll see if he's able to place it correctly, and he does, right into it. The problem is that Luigi's jump is just so busted that sometimes he just jumps right over top of the bunny and just, like, kind of pokes it in the head and bounces off of it. Very frustrating stuff. But of course, Ginkgo is better than any of that. Very nice double long jump for Mr.Arska to catch the penguin. We do a little bit more penguin bullying. We're going to be bullying penguins, I think, 3 more times in this run. So, you know, if you enjoy a little bit of jovial animal abuse in a video game, stay tuned for more. Freeze Flame 3, of course. We had the cool, we had the hot, now we're going to be combining the two. I don't know where Mr.Arska is going, I'm not going to lie. I think he thinks he's doing secret, but he is in fact not. We're going to be going off to the right once we go back for Freeze Flame to do the secret star, but that is not for a little bit yet. Ginkgo is going to be doing it in 2 stars. So yeah, Hot and Cold Collide, aptly named star. You can skip around this first planet by just doing a well-placed jump, skating jump, as Ginkgo shows off for us there. Very good stuff. And now here you need torches to light, or you need the torches to be lit, but of course the torches are on the other side of the planet, so we're going to sashay our way over there. Ooh, very poorly timed jump for Mr.Arska, jumping right into these sort of ice balls that Baron Burr is throwing at us. It can be a little bit difficult to get up to this platform sometimes, but Mr.Arska getting up there a little bit later. Ginkgo has his fire flower, he's making his way around. Gravity's doing weird things and he's pretty much flying. Throwing a fireball into water, silly boy. I tried to say goose and boy at the same time. You can tell I've been talking for an hour and a half because I'm starting to fail at English, but that is okay, because who cares about English when we have Super Mario Galaxy? Am I right, fellas? And now the fun section of Freeze Flame 3. And by fun, I mean not fun, because I hate this part. You can use the ice flower to skate across lava. Not for any particular reason, aside from the fact that the devs put a layer of water underneath the lava, so that you can freeze it. And there's actually a strategy that tool-assisted speedruns can use. It's very slow, but you can swim under the lava. It's pretty funny. Extremely slow, but hilarious. And I mean, come on, what else matters? So again, we see the Cosmic Clone Comet over top of Freeze Flame. We don't want to do that, so we're heading right along back into Gusty Garden. Alright, Mr.Arska taking the anti-clockwise route along the Big Donut. Going to require him to do something of an upside-down long jump here, but it's not too big of a deal. Oh, unless he goes around. Alright, then in that case, it's slightly slower than what Ginkgo did, but at the end of the day, it's a couple of seconds across a 2.5-hour run. Not the end of the world. Ginkgo heading over to probably the most hated planet in all of Super Mario Galaxy, this question mark planet. The idea is that you want to position these moles in such a way that they're there when you want them, because things only move when they're on screen. So we're going to be trying to do a little bit of precise movement in order to ensure that the moles are in very specific positions so that we can do what Ginkgo is doing right now, which is kill them. So very clean from Ginkgo right there, getting through the moles with very little difficulty. If you mess up a ground pound and the mole keeps going, it's just going. It's going around and around, and you are losing a whole bunch of time. Mr.Arska lighting the torches, jumping right into the star. Very nice positioning from him. Perfect. So yeah, Mr.Arska keeping up. For the strats he's doing, he's holding on fairly well. Yeah, these sets of apples are kind of frustrating because they're pretty close together, so we would hope that we'd just be able to, like, jump between them, but there are a whole bunch of invisible walls that force you to use the worm and such. It's kind of annoying, but, you know. And now Major Burrows, which is literally just a big mole. We've seen Ginkgo kill 4 moles already. We can watch him kill this 5th one. It's literally the exact same thing. You ground pound it and then you spin. Except because he's a boss, we need to do it 3 times, obviously. You can see Ginkgo throwing a star bit at the butt of Burrows. Just like before, that slows him down and allows you to catch up to him, because he walks pretty fast, honestly. Yeah, nice little bit of optimization. Usually the casual player will ground pound once, and then Major Burrows will come charging at him again, and then you have to quickly ground pound a second time. Turns out as long as you ground pound twice, he'll just pop up again, and you're good to go. And that is Major Burrows done. We're going to be seeing him again in about 3 stars. So if you like big moles, then, again, stay tuned for more. This run kind of has something for everyone, I'd like to believe. Whether you like big moles, whether you like Luigi, whether you like bullying penguins, that's pretty much everything anybody likes, right? Alright, Ginkgo sliding his way on over to the Secret Star of Freeze Flame. This level is extremely technical. There's going to be a lot of super precise movement. We're going to be doing wall kicks at 90 degrees. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of very specific backflips and wall kicks and all those basic platforming things that you know and love from your 3D Mario games. Mr.Arska having a bit of trouble with the bunny, as I mentioned. That's going to happen to a lot of people. It as well can be shot with star bits to slow it down, as they did demonstrate all the way back in Gateway, but that was about an hour and a half ago, so in case anyone's forgotten. So as I alluded to when Mr.Arska was here at Freeze Flame 1, we're going to be heading off to the right to start off Freeze Flame Secret. Now, Ginkgo might have some 2P shenanigans going on that I don't know about. That prevents him, or that allows him to skip. No, he's going to do the angled wall kick. He's going to try to jump against that wall on the other side. Very nice. I think it's possible to do this level transformationless in the tasks, in the tool assisted speedrun. If we could do it without a power-up, that'd be pretty cool, but Unfortunately, we humans kind of suck at this game. Ginkgo having a little bit of trouble getting his wall kick off. It happens. And as you can see, he's going to be climbing nice and quick all the way up this top of the summit. This is the very top of the mountain that I was talking about, and there's a star up here. How cool. So now that we've collected every single star in Freeze Flame that's accessible to us, only now do we go after the comet. Just very slightly faster in terms of menuing, as I said. 169 star bits. Can I get a nice? I think that deserves a nice. So we have the second cosmic clone of the run. We're going to be doing 4 of them overall. And this one will be reusing the section from the end of Freeze Flame 3, which Mr.Arska is so diligently reminding us what that looks like. This level is very easy to just kind of like long jump in the wrong direction, and then there's a whole bunch of black holes waiting to suck you up, so... Thankfully, Mr.Arska having no trouble getting through the sections, and he's into the star, nice and easy. Now Ginkgo's going to be taking the exact same path, and because the lava has been replaced with ice, not getting a long jump there, Ginkgo, come on, man. It happens, it's all good. Because the whole thing is now ice, we can just kind of skate across it freely. And not much to talk about. This is fairly straightforward in terms of attack. You just kind of go, and there he goes. As Mr.Arska slides his way on over to do battle with the moles himself, Ginkgo is also going to be heading back into Gusty Garden. He's going to be going into Gusty Garden 3, the so-called Gravity Scramble. Now we're going to ignore scrambling gravity too much. I was about to say scraddling gambling. I'm about to have a stroke, don't mind me. I'm just the commentator. As you can see, looks much like any other Gusty Garden level, except for this little geometric bit at the end here. Normally there's a whole bunch of gravity swapping stuff you have to do in order to make your way around this sort of obstacle course. But remember what I said earlier, we are very good at saying no here in the speedrunning community, and we are going to skip the vast majority of it. Ginkgo, getting these question mark coins, these will be useful later, but they're also just a very nice benchmark for when you want to spin. Because here he's going to get a nicely released jump, and he's going to skip right onto the second bean planet. Very nice. That's not the biggest skip in the world. If you miss it, you just kind of hit that piranha plant at the end there, and it spawns a vine. But it's just a nice little thing to hit. It saves a couple of seconds. After a little bit of vine trouble, Ginkgo is heading over to whatever this planet is. There's a lot of rocks. You can use the 2P cursor here to get a fair amount of star bits, but Ginkgo is not wanting for star bits, so no big deal. Onto the star chips. Depth perception can be kind of hard here, but the jumps are fairly straightforward if you're just very careful about going directly straight each time, which Ginkgo is. Very nice. Mr.Arska with a very nicely placed triple jump into the launch star, and he's on his way to fight Major Burrows. We saw Ginkgo go through that already. As I said, it's just a big mole. Nothing too complicated about it, but there we go. As Mr.Arska heads on over to the boss fight, we will get to show off how we're going to skip the gravity scramble. It's very simple. I promise you'll be able to follow along at home. Ready? Here it comes. It's a single long jump to the right. Yep, that's it. Sometimes things just work out like that. So if you want to see a little bit more Major Burrows action, as Mr.Arska does battle with him on the right side of your screen, we're going to be seeing Ginkgo going into Gusty Garden again to do battle with him for the second time as well. Introducing the fourth sort of archetype of comet that we'll be seeing, the Daredevil Comet, the one in white there. This one's fairly straightforward. All you have is one hit point to beat Major Burrows, so if you take any damage, you die and you gotta start the fight again. Very annoying to fail. But as we've seen, neither player taking damage from him in their first fight, so I am not going to say anything, because Commentator's Curse is a real thing. But I need to say something, don't I? Because I'm kind of my job. Mr.Arska heading on into Freeze Flame Secret. This is where he gets to do his movement to the right that he wanted to do so badly. Now, we did see Mr.Arska when he went into Freeze Flame 1 had a really nice bunny catch, or excuse me, penguin catch. So, we're gonna hope that he can do so once again. Here we go, 1 long jump, 2 long jump, hits the crystal. Not super optimal, but again, that angle is really hard to hit. No big deal. Seeing as Ginkgo is heckling me in chat, I can assume that he does not take damage. Indeed, he gets through major burrows with little difficulty. All is good. Okay, so Mr.Arska taking a very safe approach to get up to this Sling Star. The diagonal wall kick is admittedly really tricky to get. The mechanics behind it are a little bit awkward. So thankfully he's able to do this slope walk, where spinning prevents you from sliding back down the slope. And so he's able to just saunter his way on over to the Sling Star. We are coming to the end of the bedroom section for Ginkgo, as he's going into the secret star of Gusty Garden. If you remember those question mark coins from 3, those are going to be coming in very crucial here, as they are actually integral for getting the star itself. So, Ginkgo is going to be trying to hit all 3 of those. Mr.Arska schmoving his way on up the summit. A little bit of trouble getting a bit of a spin bonk there. And opting to take a slightly different route up here. And he's getting a little lost. Understandable. This part is kind of disorienting. Ginkgo manages to get the question mark coins inside as a rainbow star. And I bet you cannot tell what on this planet requires the rainbow star to get the star. There we go. The golden chomp has a golden star. We're all having a golden time. So with that, Ginkgo has finished the sort of main galaxies of the bedroom. He's now going to head on, do one more star here before the grand star, and that is Honey Climb. Now, had we done Honey Hive 1 the intended way, we would have been introduced to Honeycomb a little bit earlier. It's fairly straightforward. If you have the bee mushroom, you're able to sort of climb on it. And so they were like, hey, that's a cool mechanic, we're going to make an entire stage out of it. Now, there's not too much to talk about in the way of skips here. There's really only one mechanic that Ginkgo's going to be taking advantage of here. It's the really awkwardly named Valu Fly High Bee thing. Where, as you can see there, Ginkgo spun shortly after he started flying, and it gave him an insane amount of height, allowing him to clear that entire planet in one cycle of fly meter, or however you want to denote that. So that's probably the most aggressive use of it we'll see. This section is a little bit more horizontal, so we obviously can't take advantage of it, but it's going to come up again in the 3rd planet, although slightly differently. And of course, this level is an excellent stage for Starbits. You can collect something like 180 here. Pretty great stuff. Here we go again. He's going to get a bonk off of this Mandibug. There we go, and that gets him a little bit of height as well. Very nice. Just flying up this thing. That was a very clean honey climb from Ginkgo. That is absolutely beautiful. We're going to be seeing Mr.Arska going into the Gravity Scramble now. I'm curious to see if he does the exact same skip that Ginkgo does. There's sort of 2 skips you can do in the Gravity Scramble. One where you do that long jump to the right that you saw Ginkgo saw, and there's another one where you do a long jump up, and you hit one additional sort of gravity switch. It's a little bit safer, but there are some complications that come with it that we'll talk about when we get there if we need to cross that bridge. For now, keep your eyes to the left. Ginkgo is going into the hardest Bowser stage in the run, bar none. Bowser 2. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of gravity. There's a big skip where the screen was just then that Ginkgo's going to be going for. It's a whole lot of fun. Lots of super tight platforming, and we're going to get to take a look at it here. As you can see, we're going to be taking advantage of the gravity to its fullest effect, doing very long jumps, sliding in and out of different gravity fields. Cute little triple jump there is enough to skip any platform nonsense. Now those sky blue sort of squares in the floor are dark matter. If you touch those, you die. So Ginkgo, don't touch those. He's doing a very good job at avoiding those. Making his way on over to this section up here with the so-called infamous plus skip, which is not the greatest name because you don't actually skip the plus. You're actually going to stand on the plus to do the skip. But there he goes. He's going to do a spin. He's going to try to get a wall kick off of this L here, and he does indeed. He is not the one taking the L today. That would be Bowser, ladies and gentlemen. So Ginkgo getting through that relatively cleanly. He missed a small jump at the very end there, but at the end of the day, not a big deal. And he's going to slide his way on over to the boss fight. What an excellent Bowser 2. Thank you, Ginkgo. Very nice demonstration. Now, I wasn't quite able to comment on it. It looked like Mr.Arska did go for the same skip in Gusty Garden 3, going off to the right away. Ginkgo, again, opting not to skip the first phase, get the damage cancel a little bit later. Or I should say spin cancels. I wonder if it's like Bowser 1 where he doesn't know about it, and I am educating him on the fly. We're going to have two boss fights going on the screen at the same time. Mr.Arska sliding his way on over to Major Burrow's Daredevil comment. Yep, I know what I'm talking about. A very interesting version of the spin cancel Ginkgo does there. In this star, Bowser has also learned how to spin, and we can spin into him to sort of cancel his attack a little bit early. A little bit tight sometimes, but we're going to see Ginkgo get a nice weak spin there. He's able to cancel all three spins, send Bowser off into this this fit that he likes to go into. And with that, Bowser 2 is finished. Ginkgo's going to finish with a low 146, which is a very nice time indeed. I'm actually curious how that compares to my own PB. I need to watch Ginkgo because he's very close to me, so I need to make sure that I'm still staying on top of him, you know. Alright, and with that we are done in about a 146.07. Very good, very good. Ginkgo is actually on really good pace right now. I would say that he's on pace for a low 227, maybe a high 226, depending on how this engine room goes. But the engine room is a very, very difficult dome to do precisely. So Ginkgo will definitely have his work cut out for him, but I can say with almost sure authority that he is on personal best pace right now. For those curious, Ginkgarbor's personal best going into this is 2 hours, 27 minutes, and 42 seconds. Mr.Arska, 2 hours, 39 minutes, and 40-something. No, 2 hours, 38 minutes, 25 seconds, excuse me. I do have the PBs open somewhere else. So Ginkgo going for a little bit of nice, never mind. There's a little bit of observatory optimization where you can bounce off a couple of Lumas to get up to this platform faster, but it only saves about a second and is kind of dumb. But it looks funny. And if you do it, Bread Ghost is happy, and we like to keep Bread Ghost happy. So while Mr.Arska goes to do battle with Honey Climb, Ginkgo is going to head into one of the hardest sort of set of stars in the game, of Gold Leaf Galaxy. This first star isn't too terrible, especially because there's a very safe route you can take to collect these blue star chips that we're going to see at the very start. And then, of course, it ends with another bunny catch, because who doesn't love catching bunnies, eh? Just kidding, all of us hate it. Dumb mechanic. We're going to see Ginkgo going anti-clockwise around this starting planet in order to collect a whole bunch of blue star chips. Those will be necessary for accessing the last planet of the galaxy. And again, there's not too much to this, it's just sort of going around, collecting the blue star chips, and playing the video game, you know? We play some video games around these parts. Mr.Arska also going for the Valu Fly High B thing. It's really difficult on Switch because A, you need to be facing directly straight up, and that can be a little difficult to do because the Joy-Cons don't have notches. And B, you need to spin like pretty much exactly after you start flying, which can be a little bit difficult because sometimes the Joy-Cons just kind of delay your spin. I speak as primarily a Nintendo Switch runner, so I know the trials and tribulations better than most. Ginkgo shooting the Star Bunny twice. That's what you want to see. You want to hit that Star Bunny twice to ensure it does not move too much when you run into it and catch it. Very good stuff from Ginkgo, getting through Gold Leaf 1 with no pain. Now, I would say that Gold Leaf 2 is where things get a little bit more difficult. And I guess it is true even in this case, but Ginkgo can kind of cheat a little bit using 2P because he's able to go very vertical. The gimmick of this stage is that you're supposed to be using Cataquacks again, just like we saw back in Beach Bowl Secret, in order to get great height. But as I've said before, good level design is ratioed by backflip 2P jump, so we're going to be seeing a lot of backflip 2P jumps and triple jump 2P jumps and long jump 2P jumps and all of those things that just kind of say we're not going to play the game the way you want us to play it. Looks like Mr.Arska had an okay Honey Climb. He had a little bit of trouble on the first planet, as I pointed out, but otherwise not too bad. He also has enough star bits. You want to have 600 by the end of the game, and I think I saw him have 713, so he's definitely good on the star bit front. So let's watch Ginkgo schmoove his way on over to the back of this planet. We want to see him long jump, not backflip. We want to see him backflip here. Okay, sure. That also works. So here they want you to use a Cataquack in order to get onto the cube, and we're just going to not. And then here they want you to use a Cataquack to get off the cube, and we're just kind of going to not. And here they want you to use a Cataquack in order to get to that launch star high in the sky. And this time we will. We will intentionally use the Cataquack at least once. And now Ginkgo's going to be going for a trick called Crump Jump, where he's going to try to 2P jump onto the flower. You have a very slight window on top of that flower, a couple of frames where you're allowed to jump off of it. Normally you need the bee mushroom in order to stay on top of it. But we can take advantage of the couple of frame window to jump, get onto the star. Ginkgo did not get Crump Jump first try, so he does not get a high five. But he's still through the star with relatively little pain otherwise. It's now Mr.Arska's turn to do battle with plus skip, and it looks like he's going to be going for a slightly safer version where he does the long jump at the very end of it all. Oh no! Ooh, sometimes you kind of just hit an invisible wall and your momentum just stops. If you're not holding the right direction, sometimes the gravity thinks you're holding a different direction and it sends you in the opposite way, and then you just can't move anymore. And Bowser 2 is not a fun star. Gold Leaf 3 for Ginkgo. This is probably my least favorite stage of the entire run. Oh no, Mr.Arska going for a long jump, getting a backflip, and not able to recover it. That is 2 deaths. That is, I think, what I can correctly consider a major mistake. So yeah, there's a cute little tree skip that Ginkgo's gonna go for here. Normally you want to grab a bee mushroom, and there's this whole like course you can do with flying on the clouds and stuff. We're just going to do a wall kick against this tree and make our way across basically the entire thing. And now we got a little bit more vertical platforming. We do enjoy going vertical with our 2P cursors. I say our, I don't use them. I'm too cool for that. And now, if Ginkgo is able to get this correctly, yes, very nice. Normally, you'll fly out, land on the platform, there's a small cutscene, and the boss starts doing stuff. But by spinning out of the vine a little bit early, we're actually able to skip the cutscene, and it completely disables the boss too, which is really interesting. I would like them to update the SMG command to also include the bracket. I'll put the bracket in chat just in case, because I think it's interesting. But Ginkgo through Gold Leaf 3 with no issues. You love to see it. And now he'll be heading into Toy Time, which I think is my favorite galaxy overall. Maybe not to speedrun, but at least in terms of aesthetics, I think it's super cute. Posted the right link, right? Yes. Yeah, this Toy Time 1 features a lot of really, really cool platforming. Including one awesome trick at the end that is kind of painful, but kind of fun. I love water. Yeah, this is one of the more technical levels that Ginkgo is going into. There's a lot of precise platforming. Not necessarily precise in the sense of making cycles, but precise in the sense of there's optimal movement. Get through the stage as fast as possible. And we're going to be seeing Ginkgo go for it, including a little bit of 2P shenanigans in there for good measure. This star is also probably, I think, the introduction to the Spring Mushroom. Worst power-up ever created, I think, bar none. We are very good at going vertical already, so we're just going to do a little bit of platforming. Again, backflip 2P jump. Cry about it. Mr.Arska, with a little bit of trouble, will also be finishing the bedroom. It's looking like a 155-38-ish. Maybe 37. 38, so he's about, I want to say 9 minutes behind Ginkgo, which is to be expected. Ginkgo is on PB pace, and he also had a 11-minute faster PB, so nothing too out of the ordinary here. Ginkgo going for the armpit skip, as I said. It can be a little bit disorienting because this yellow block that you can see just behind the arm is kind of jutting out of the body a little bit, and so sometimes your wall kick just kind of hits the bottom of it and you get stuck. Things happen. But Ginkgo making his way up to the top, crushing the rocks that are on top of Mecha Bowser's head, and the robot is destroyed. That is star number 48 for Ginkgo. We're going to be going back into Gold Leaf Galaxy very briefly in order to snag the comet here. This is the third Cosmic Clone race, and it involves the same sort of tree setup that we saw in Gold Leaf 3, where Ginkgo is going to be trying to do a precise wall kick off the tree and up onto the platform, where normally he would climb the tower, as you saw but 2 levels ago, but as you can see here, the tower has just been replaced by the star. It's just kind of there. Actually, no, the tower's still there. No, this platform was always there. Never mind. It's just, instead of empty space, it's now a star. Yes. I remember. So let's see if Ginkgo can get the starting boost. He does indeed. Nice little bit of speed at the start here. And if all goes well, he's just going to do a triple jump. Very, very cool. Nice and easy star. Yeah, that triple jump is kind of hard because sometimes you just kind of like bonk against the platform and sometimes the camera just doesn't want to participate and you just kind of get a weird angle. Mr.Arska going for a triple jump to get up to the top of this thing here. You don't necessarily need one. You can just do a backflip, but the backflip is kind of tight, so I guess he's looking for a little bit of a cushion. And now, as Ginkgo heads into Seaside 1, we're going to take a quick break from looking at him because this is an auto-scroller, and there's really nothing to talk about. There is absolutely no way to save time here, except for, like, a very optimized long jump at the very end, but it's not anything special. Instead, Arska going after the bunny, having a little bit of trouble hitting it. Ginkgo does a little bit better. Pro tip, you can shake when you're very close to the bunny, and the spin will increase your hitbox, so you're able to get the bunny slightly faster. But still, Arska managing to catch it. One nice thing about playing on 3D All-Stars is that star bunnies tend to go a little bit slower, so if you miss it, there's a little bit more forgiving of a window. So as Polari tells us about the enemy base being unlocked, that's the Grand Star for the engine room. We don't do it in this run. But Arska now heading into Gold Leaf 2, and the 1P movement for this is a little bit more precise than the 2P movement that Ginkgo went for. You can really use the 2P jumps to their full effect on that stage, but here we're going to need to see Mr.Arska either do a lot more precise jumping, or he'll be needing to use the Cataquax. So we're going to take a minute and see which one he chooses. Now for this opening planet, you don't really have too much of a choice. You don't have to use the Cataquax, but it's not necessarily faster to skip them. Because of course they just launch you right up there, no problem at all. Ginkgo is finishing up the auto-scroller. He's going to be heading back into one of my favorite levels, Toy Time 2. So there you see Arska going for a side flip and a spin. Here he's going to be trying to do a triple jump, land on the corner of the cube, not quite far enough. You want to land on that sort of lifted part that he's on right now to ensure that you have just enough height to get up there. He's not quite far enough. It's such a tiny lip that you have to land on. He wants to start his triple jump just maybe a little bit further forward. That looks really good, and he's got it. Third try, honestly, still respectable. That triple jump is insanely precise, especially given that he was working at a really odd angle. Seeing him get it third try, not at all disappointing, I don't think. And because he does not have access to the 2P cursor, he can't just do a 2P jump to get on top of the flower. He actually needs to utilize the bee mushroom here. But thankfully, we can still skip this entire section by just flying off of this thing, taking a boost off the dirt to get a little bit more height, and float down right onto the star. Nothing complicated at all. As Ginkgo makes his way on over to this planet, going to be collecting some star chips. A nice triple jump here to jump right over to the screw. The gravity fields here are all over the place, and we're going to be abusing them a little bit. Now there is a 2P setup called Screw Skip, where you skip screwing in that blue screw. It's a very marginal time save and not really anything too serious, but it's still a slight optimization that some 2P runners implement. And now we are on to the 8-bit Mario. We're going to be collecting 5 silver stars here. We do a lot of collecting in this level. And this is just some very high-paced platforming we're going to be doing. So I will let Ginkgo's run speak for itself. As we take a look at Mr.Arska, he is now on Gold Leaf 3. Again, very challenging level, especially on Switch, because that cutscene skip is harder on Switch, because as I said, spins can sometimes get delayed on the Joy-Con. So trying to get the spin in the very small window that you have to do so, very, very challenging. So we'll see if Mr. Arska is able to get it. If so, that'd be really nice to see. We're going to see him doing a lot of shaking. He is able to spin out of it. That's really, really awesome. Gotta represent for us switch runners, my guy. So again, the boss is completely disabled. Normally he'd be throwing bubbles at you and being a big old nuisance, but not today, sir. Ginkgo's gonna go back into C-Slide 2 now to do the two most physically demanding stars. Because, yes, this game actually requires a little bit of physical fitness. Because here we're going to be swimming. Now, there's a technique Ginkgo's going to be using called surface swimming, where he's going to be surfing, or well, he's going to be swimming along the surface, I should say. That's not what the surf is for. And it requires very, very fast shakes. You need to be shaking completely, like, the entire time. You pretty much have no downtime. As you'll see in just a few seconds, if he's able to get the perfect starting setup. Not quite able to do so. He's got to go down just a little bit. If he's able to just hold down for long enough, he'll be able to get the setup. 4 tries, 5 tries. Oh no. Really, really unfortunate. It's technically a glitch. So if you don't get it, it just happens, but either way, as you can see, even when he's not surface swimming, he's still doing the spin swimming. This is fastest way to swim underwater. In Galaxy 2, they patched this by making the underwater spins have the same cooldown as when you're above ground. But in Galaxy 1, that's not the case. We can just spam this forever and ever. So it's faster than the red shell. And as you can see, Ginkgo's staying underwater for as long as possible to keep swimming. There we go. Here's the surface swim. Now he needs to continue spinning as much as possible. He needs to spin the Wii Remote. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And eventually just make it all the way to the end. So yeah, 53 straight seconds of just shaking the Wii Remote, and if anybody owns a Wii Remote, I encourage you to try just holding it and shaking it as vigorously as you can for a minute. It is quite the workout. And the best part is, we have to do it twice. So we only do 3 stars here in C-Slide, which is relatively small, but the rest of the C-Slide stars are very, very long, so we're going to ignore those. So to end our stay at this little vacation spot, we are going to finish with the 4th Cosmic Clone race of the match. This one, it's actually pretty easy to mess up, especially if you're not super confident with your surface swimming, but I would say Ginkgo is. Alright, it looks like Mr.Arska is probably going to be going for a slightly safer version of the Armpit Skip. He's going to be spinning in these 2 screws and instead going up to the chest. It's understandable. The wall kicking off of Mecha Bowser's thigh can be a little bit awkward when the camera changes, so this allows him to just jump right over into the, whatever you call the crook of the elbow. Not exactly sure what that's called. Another very nice starting boost from Ginkgo, getting off to a very good start, and he's going to be trying to surface swim here. He is able to get it, and that makes the entire race pretty trivial. Now a slight optimization, he's going to jump up here. You can't really do that on Switch just because the water level is lower for some reason. So as we see Mr.Arska get up to C-Slide, we might see him have a little bit of issue. That's something that 3D All-Stars players have to deal with, unfortunately. Ginkgarbor only has 3 more stars to do in the engine room, and 2 of them will take place in Toy Time Galaxy, starting on this planet that Ginkgo is going to be unlocking through a Hungry Luma. Mr.Arska's turn to do battle with the Cosmic Clone. I wasn't able to catch how well he was able to do the tree skip, but if he had good success there, then I assume that this won't be too difficult for him. But this is kind of a tight level. You really only have, I think, 3 chances to get the tree skip before Cosmic Luigi finishes the race. And if Cosmic Luigi beats you to the end, you die. So, because of the high stakes, we are not too opposed to cheating. So let's see if Arska is able to get the backflip. He's going to adjust the camera so that it's the same as on 3, or at least somewhat similar, and he's able to get it first try. Very nice. Good stuff. So Ginkgo over on the flip switch chain. As you can see, there's not too much technical stuff, it's just boxes. We're going to be trying and moving in such a way that we can make cycles, so that the tox boxes are where we want them to be, and in addition, the sort of red spiky things whose name I don't exactly know. Of course, making cycles is trivial when you can just freeze the things, but, you know, 2P runners. That's what they do. And there you go. All the flip switches have been pressed. The star is there. And since I didn't give this too much coverage because I was focusing on Mr.Arska, thankfully, this run is so nice, we get to do it again. This is the last comet of the run. It's a fast foe comet, so the tox boxes will be moving twice as fast. The red spiky lads, I don't know what they're called, will also be moving twice as fast. So the cycles are, in one sense, a little bit tighter, but in another sense, not really, because obviously they reset twice as fast, so... If you're a super high-level runner and you're trying to match your gold, this can be extremely difficult, but if you're, you know, like a mid-level-ish runner, this level's actually kind of forgiving, because, you know, if you mess something up, you only have to wait, like, 2 seconds. So now Mr.Arska's turn to go through the auto-scroller. He's going to follow the guppy. That's the name of that orca. He's a bit of a turd. But, you know, we can get him out of the water by swimming through his rings, because that's how battles for domination work, I guess. Very good from Ginkgo, getting through those flip switches with little difficulty. And with that, we are done with toy time for the run. We're going to do one more star here before we leave, but it's a very quick one, so don't fret. We will be leaving the engine room very shortly. But if you like toy time as much as I do, then keep your eyes to the right, because Mr.Arska is going to be going into toy time too. So yeah, one more secret. In Gold Leaf, we're going to be collecting a star here using the bubble from Bubble Breeze, if you remember, all the way back in the kitchen. It's a really simple star. It'd be kind of tricky to do well, because it involves music notes. And trying to have precise movement when the pointer is involved can sometimes be non-trivial, but it's definitely on the simpler end of stars. Nice and easy. So with that, Ginkgo is done with the engine room. He's going to be heading back on down to the kitchen, because there was a galaxy that only unlocked after we left that we want to go back and do, because there's a couple of pretty fast stars in there. As you can see, Ginkgo, with the 600 required star bits, he's going to be unlocking that Hungry Luma on the left there. But first, we're going to be heading into Buoy Base, which has some really cool music, I think. I don't think that this is in the discussion enough for coolest music in the game. Oh, Mr.Arska, no! Oof. Sometimes those rotating platforms rotate so much that they count as slopes. Thankfully there, he was able to land on the side of it and not just die. So really cool stuff there. We're going to be taking a Torpedo Tom, or Torpedo Ted. I forget what the lad's name is. We're going to be busting open a thing. Going to be raising the weights here, and this will allow us to access the rest of the level. Now, normally they want you to collect blue star chips in order to get up to the second planet here. But, you know what we like to say around here? Flip 2P jump. We're going to be seeing one backflip 2P jump. We're going to be seeing another backflip 2P jump right here. And now this isn't a backflip. We're going to be jumping off the spring, but 2P jump into the next planet. And blue star chips be damned. And there we have it. As Mr.Arska goes into the race, I think he'll try to go for a surface swim. They are a little bit harder on Switch, just because, again, spinning is a little bit difficult. He doesn't go for it. Okay, he's going to be taking at least the underwater approach for this section. Fair enough. Because of the lower water level on Switch, sometimes you hit that gate that he just swam through, and it can slow you down, and it's just a really annoying time loss. So I guess it's fine that he's staying underwater for a little bit. There are enough coins and air bubbles down here that you can stay down here for at least like 75% of the lap and be perfectly fine. So as you saw, Ginkgo stayed underwater for this section. Mr.Arska decides to go up, taking it a little bit safer. You do go down to 1 health as you pass under this sort of machine part, so I guess it's understandable that he's taking it a little bit safer. Another Torpedo Ted over on Ginkgo's screen. Going to be busting open this cage over here. Alright, now it looks like Mr.Arska is going to be trying to not go for the surface swim, but instead giving his arm a break. Going for the red shell, and he's going to finish this off rather lackadaisically, I guess. Bullet Bill up and over the electrodes, I think those are called. No, that's a Pokemon. I forget what those things are called. And the second green star of the run is ours. Now, they don't mean anything until we get 3 of them, and we're not going to get 3 of them, so forget that star was ever green. It doesn't matter. And finally, as our last star of the quote-unquote kitchen, it's not in the kitchen, but this is where we go to the Hungry Luma for one of the most hated galaxies in the run, Drip Drop. Now, thankfully with 2P, this level is rather forgiving, although I know Ginkgo is very proud of his consistency without using it. So ideally, we'll be able to see a very nice performance of how you're supposed to do this level from Mr. Ginkgarbor. The idea is that you want to hit 3 eels with shells, and as I've alluded to before, things only move when they're on screen, so we have a very specific pattern that we like to follow to ensure that the eels are where we want them when we want them. But of course, being underwater, sometimes the camera doesn't work, sometimes you just miss your shell throw, and you have to find a backup. It's incredibly difficult to back up this level, so we're going to need to see if Ginkgo is able to work with the precision he needs here. Starting with a frame-perfect jump, I don't like to go for that just because I don't trust the cycles, but I trust in Ginkgo. So here we go. So he's going to keep that second eel on screen. He's going to move him over to this green shell that's on top of this little ridge here. Going to pick that up and throw it, and then he's going to turn the camera to the left to ensure that the third eel stays off screen for long enough. He's going to freeze it here to ensure that it's still in front of the ship. So he did have to use the 2P remote a little bit there, but all in all, that is still a really nice performance from Ginkgo. And then he is right there for the star. Very nice indeed. As we saw from Mr.Arska, he didn't go for the surface swim here either. He instead chose the red shell. It's understandable, though the Cosmic Clone also goes for the red shell, so you're kind of taking a little bit of a gamble by not going for the surface swim, but also if you fail the surface swim enough times, you can also fail the race. So it's a little bit difficult either way. Either way, Luigi is heading over to talk to Toad, get a third Luigi letter. This is why we endured the auto-scroller for a second time, the one in Battle Rock. It's to open up this star, which is super, super fast. Thought I had to sneeze there for a moment. Apologies. So Arska heading on over to Toy Time Secret. He's going to do battle with the flip switch chain. Luigi is off to do battle with Scuttlebug. Not exactly the most terrifying of opponents, but there he goes. Luigi has been saved, and we are on to the final Bowser stage very shortly. So we're going to have about a minute and a half of cutscenes and text boxes and stuff from Ginkgo, so if you like the animations, then you can keep looking to the left. Otherwise, you're going to want to keep your attention over on Mr.Arska, who is currently trying to... Okay. Apologies for that. My computer decided to crash. That was not very cool. Not exactly sure what caused that, but here we are. So Ginkgo going into the final Bowser level. There's a little bit of cute platforming at the very start here where he's going to be trying to make an early cycle with these beams of light. They affect the gravity, so he's going to be trying to get into one at the very end on time. So let's see. So he's able to get these nice long jumps, make his way over there. He's going to be trying to get into that one just off to the right. He's going to backflip 2P jump into it. Little burn boost, not quite able to make it. Maybe with 2P. 2P saves everything. Alright, fair enough. That's close enough. Now the rest of this is pretty boring. He's going to long jump around an invisible wall here to get to this section, so you get into the next piece of gravity. And then it's a little bit more just skating and long jumping here. Long jump on the next planet as well. It's not until we get to the very last planet, which I will let you know when we get there. It's just going to be just after a 2D section that we're going to have some actual interesting platforming. Mr.Arska finishing up the flip switch chain. That's the fast flow comet done. Mr.Arska himself only has one more star to do in the engine room. So definitely a reasonable run for him. I think, judging by the red on his splits, he's a little bit behind the pace he wants, but for a race, you can't really control that too much. Alright, now Ginkgo, he's in the cave. He's probably going to be what we call doing Giselle Cave movement, where he's going to take a little bit of a blind jump here, do a second one over to those green platforms, just barely makes it, and now a long jump into the lava. He's on 1 health, just barely makes the green, gets a nice coin here, so he's able to stay alive, and overall executed very nicely. Just as I say that, he kind of just jumps into the lava, but we're going to call that a damage boost and just roll with it. Having 2 controllers allows you to fire off star bits at a rapid pace, so that's pretty cool. Mr.Arska, it's now his turn to collect the music notes, and as you can see, it's a little bit hard to control with the pointer. The Joy-Cons especially do not have a very forgiving pointer. Well, in terms of star bit collecting they do, but in terms of moving the thing around to blow the bubble, it's a little bit awkward. Ginkgo is making his way up the stairs. There he goes, long jumping into the wild. Those things are spaced apart just so much that it's very, very difficult to chain long jumps into them. But if Tugzex is here, he might actually be doing commentary on a different channel. He will tell you that it's free. So, you know, just long jump, lol. Alright, final Bowser fight for Ginkgo here. I think this is easier than the one in Bowser 2, but it's definitely longer, there's more phases. So starting off here, Bowser is going to be a rock star. Somewhat literally, he's going to turn into a rock. His weak spot is, of course, his face. And then we have this little spinny mechanic. Little optimization Ginkgo does there. He spins into Bowser's head to skip the animation of him getting up. And that saves a little bit of time. And with that, the first phase is done. Second phase is very easy for 2P players because 2P players can use these bulbs with the 2P cursor. You're going to be using those to crash into him. Then if you manage to hit him with the bulb with the 2P cursor, it saves a little bit of time. But obviously it's a little bit chaotic. Ginkgo deciding to take it a little bit easier with the 1P strat, no big deal. And now we are on to the final phase, which is about as close to the classic fights as you can get. Although there's going to be a little added piece. In that Bowser's going to be turning into a spiky ball. So we're going to have a damage skip right here. You're going to see Bowser up top, he's going to turn into a spiky ball. We're going to take damage to cancel that animation and cause him to jump right into the blue circle, just like that. There's a couple of coins scattered about on this planet, so we're not like wanting for health or anything. So these damage boosts are pretty much just free time save. As Ginkgo goes into the last hit, he's looking at a low to mid 226, which is an absolutely insane pace for him. Going for the task strat, does not get it. The idea was that he wanted Bowser to knock him into the fireball there. Doesn't quite happen, but of course, that's why it's a tool-assisted speedrun strat. Ginkgo really trying to show off here. What a mad lad. And as he goes for the final Bowser hit, we have 1, we have 2, we have 3. That is looking like a 226... 10? 20? Oh god, I forget how this math works. I think it's 226.20 for Ginkgo, which is a massive PB, over a minute. Absolutely stellar performance from Ginkgarbor. He was the favorite coming into this race, and so it's not too big of a surprise that he won. But with such a huge PB in a race setting, you love to see it. 21 it is. Terrific finish. So I will be back in just a moment. I'm going to go take a quick washroom break. You can watch Mr.Arska. He's doing the exact same finishing steps as Ginkgo. And I will be back in but a moment. Alrighty. Officially marked Ginkgo as the winner so we can have Mr.Arska audio. Ginkgo will be joining us very shortly for an interview, but wait until Mr.Arska is done before you come in if possible. Just so I can have you both in here at the same time. So yeah, Arska picking the slightly safer option of taking the red shell. This hones in on enemies, so it's slightly more forgiving if you miss. Having a little bit of trouble finding it. I think it was just above him when he went over the ship the first time. So there he goes. He's going to have a much easier throw here because the shell, of course, is heat-seeking, and we are good to go. That is drip drop all done for Mr. Arska. He has, I want to say, about 9 minutes before the end of the run, so it's going to be a little bit close to see if he can catch his PB. Depends on how fast he does Bowser, the last Bowser stage. I'm not entirely sure what he does. But either way, before then, we gotta get Toad. So yeah, fairly simple start here. Maybe I'll turn Mr. Arska up just a little. Anyway, that's probably a little bit better. I'm pressing the up arrow as much as I can, but it's a little bit slow to update. That's okay. So Mr. Arska also heading into the final Bowser fight as Ginkgo heads into the second Galaxy game for whatever reason. I guess he's going to turn this into a 132. Ginkgo going to collect 61 stars in Galaxy 1, 71 stars in Galaxy 2 for absolutely no reason. So, you know, Ginkgo, very famous 602 runner. He'll be competing in the 602 in 10 days. Can I possibly turn up Arska's audio even more?
Go, Luigi.
Alright, as Arska goes into Bowser 3, Ginkgo is going to give us a showing of the perfect run. Okay. Ginkgo, you're distracting us. How dare you? But there he goes. Lie about it, nerd. Alright. Bowser 3, here we go. So Arska is going to have the same issues presented for him that Ginkgo did. He's going to have to deal with catching these cycles. I don't think he's going to go for the same early cycle that Ginkgo does. He's just going to take it a little bit safer. Oh. Spinning a little too early there. But as you can see, fairly similar movement. Not quite as sure of what he's doing, but not a big deal. Still able to catch that light, and he's able to get a good cycle here regardless. It's a little bit slower than what Ginkgo went for, but it's definitely a lot more consistent. It's very possible to just bonk and die at a few different points during that long jump section, so It's not the end of the world. Ooh, missing the long jump there. Gonna need to recenter himself. Go for it again. Nope, choosing not to. Fair enough. It is sometimes possible to take 2 damage in the lava there, so him skipping it just might be a countermeasure against that. Nope, not quite getting the long jump there, and opting not to skate for a little bit. I want to see a little bit more skating there, Arska. It's faster. There you go. He can beat this firebar. He chooses not to. Arska taking it a little more carefully. It's best to take damage through this section just because the fire bars do not work in your favor. And now perhaps Arska will give us a look at the slightly more common way to do the cave movement. The one that Ginkgo went for, it's very fast, but it's very risky. Ooh, no, 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 no. Eesh, that is not how you want to finish that. Yeah, sometimes this game just trolls you and bullet bill does stuff. Generally you want to crouch under it as you're waiting for the thwomp to come up, so we'll see if Mr.Arska is able to correct his mistake here. Oh, he's just gonna wait it out a little bit, that's also acceptable. Gonna slide his way on over here. There's a damage boost strat that you can go for here, it looks like he's not going to do so. You can take a damage boost so that you can pass through this bonsai bill, but going around it is also perfectly acceptable. And then much the same, we're just going to long jump across these green platforms. Don't get bullet billed. And the final boss is ours for the killing. Ginkgo, what are you doing? Up the stairs, Arska goes on his way to the final Bowser fight. He's looking on pace for a 239, I think, depending on how this fight goes. I haven't done the timings super precisely. And off to the final fight we go. We are nearing the end of this matchup. I should probably have the brackets open so that I can talk about that after. Getting caught on the edge of the crystal there, not quite able to hit Bowser, but second time around is all good. Now on to the easiest phase with the bulbs. This is fairly straightforward. Ideally you're going to hit him just so that that bulb is nice and ready for him. Beautiful. Just barely catching the back of his knee. And on to the third phase. Yeah, I'd say about a 239 is accurate, low 239. Mr.Arska's PB is a 238.20 something, so getting a 239 in a race setting is not too shabby at all. He's also going to be taking the damage boost strat, hitting Bowser right on top of the blue circle, all as well. We'll see if he stops anywhere for a coin, because being at 2 health against this boss is a little nerve-wracking. Alright, he does indeed get one. He's not able to get Bowser, but it happens. And now the more conventional strat, instead of what Ginkgo did, he's going for the tail to stop the attack. And he's going to be trying to find a fireball and walk into it just like that, canceling the attack. Hopefully it's able to get him into the circle. Not quite. Having to take 2 jumps there as Bowser, but that happens fairly frequently. And we have 1 hit. We have 2 hits. And that is the 3rd hit. 239, 30... oh god. No, 239.26, I think. $27, pretty close. Alrighty, that concludes the race. Congratulations, gentlemen, on your finish. You should have both received a DM. So go ahead and hop in Discord, and we'll take a quick talk before we let SpeedGaming take their channel back. I'll keep him hostage for just a little bit longer. Alrighty, the lads are in Discord. Whenever you two are ready, come on in. Whew. Good day, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good day or good evening, whatever.
Very nice race. Of course, just before we start, let's get some general comments. Mr.Arska, how do you think your run went?
I'm not proud of it, mostly because of Bowser 2 and 3. Because that would have been an actual PB for me had I not messed up in one of those.
Yeah, it looks like you had a little bit of trouble, I think twice on plus skip there. I think once
you
just kind of didn't move.
Yeah, one time like I got no momentum on the spin, and one time I backflipped instead of a long jump.
Yeah, that's one of the quirks of going through all those gravity fields. You just kind of your directions kind of just don't matter sometimes, which is it's always fun, yeah.
Yeah, like other than like those two and Honey Hive 1 and 2, I think that went mostly really well. Like Engine Room was like almost all golds.
Yeah, I didn't see any major mistakes after Bowser 2. For really either of you.
I think I just like burned out like all my frustration there. And like played really well until like Drip Drop.
Fair enough, yeah. Drip Drop's hard to play well.
Yeah, I lost a third eel.
And Ginkgo, obviously this is over a minute PB for you, so I assume you can't be too disappointed with how this went.
Yeah, the thing is, the tournament setting kind of changes my perception of those things, because I knew that I was on really good pace throughout the run, and I had my Delta open, which I normally don't always have. And for some reason in the tournament, in the tournament setting, that just doesn't, that doesn't arrive. You just want to win the race, so you don't care about the pace. And it was only in Bowser 3 when I realized, wait, I could get a low 226 with this. So it was kind of interesting. I'm still very thrilled about this time, but I think I need a few more minutes to, realize that I actually got this run after a week of not playing this game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but also what I wanted to say first of all, GG Arska, Mr. Arska.
Yeah,
I looked over quite a bit, and I saw what you did, and I saw your run. And I think I have to say that your run is probably one of the best examples of what time one could get with consistent and easy strats. I think that is a very, very, very good demonstration. And
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
So Ginkgo, in all likelihood, you will be going up against Bread Ghost in the next round.
Yeah.
For those unaware, Bread Ghost has a 224 PB, so slightly faster than what Ginkgo got today. Do you think you'll be able to prep well enough to give him a bit of a run for his money?
Yes, I hope so. I am. So my biggest chances, or the biggest reason why I could win is because Bread Ghost's a bit rusty, but at the same time, Bread Ghost is also a runner that goes for consistency rather than super difficult strats. So I don't know. It could go either way. I still think the favors go in his direction, but I don't know. Yeah.
Well, as Shadow64 showed us, anything can happen in one of these races.
Yes. Yeah.
So
But that was Shadow. Yeah. All right.
I look forward to seeing that race. I think that's going to be definitely one of the better ones of round 2.
Yeah. I'm thrilled about all the outcomes. Again, I think Shadow's race was one of the more interesting ones, probably the most interesting one so far. But yeah.
I'm willing to agree with that.
Yeah.
So if everyone, I posted the bracket in chat. Neither of these two players are done with the tournament just yet. Everyone gets one more chance. So Mr. Arska, we're going to see you at least one more time, and I hope the next round goes well for you as well.
Before we end this off, I'd like to say that your commentary was very, very good, Steak. I had it on throughout the run. You're a very, very good commentator. That's what I just wanted to add.
Thank you. Alrighty, good stuff, gentlemen. Congratulations on the win, Ginkgo. Very nice race for the both of you.
Thanks.
And we will end it here. Alrighty, thank you everyone for watching. This was another match of the Super Mario Galaxy Any% Luigi tournament for the winter of 2021/2022. There will be more matches going on tonight. There's another match going on SpeedGaming 1 right now, as well at 8 p.m. EST, 5 p.m. PST. There will be 2 more matches going on some of the SpeedGaming channels. I can't quite remember which, but the !SMG command will tell you all you need to know about that. If you're looking for more Galaxy action, you won't need to wait very long. There will be more on this evening. But until then, that's us.
Yes.
Thanks
again, SpeedGaming, for hosting this tournament. Very cool, very nice.
Yeah, the commands don't work. Oopsie.
Oh.
Hello.
Alrighty.
Until next time. Cheers, everyone.
See you. Cheers.
Cheers.